Mason Lohrei and Matt Poitras continue to make a case for inclusion on the opening night roster, while the Bruins' new look fourth line looks pretty darn sweet. On the other hand, should the Bruins move on from Derek Forbort? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things spoke to be. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free and available on your favorite podcast app as well as on YouTube. Please smash that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Become an everyday listener here in 2023-24. If you are on social, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts at Ian C. McLaren. Now, the Bruins were outscored and outshot by the Washington Capitals, and they've only won one preseason game to date, but we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt for the moment and not really look too deep into the preseason results. What matters more, as I've been saying, is who stands out, who is earning a spot on the opening night roster, and there are a couple of young hopefuls that continue to make a solid impression. One of those being, of course, 19-year-old center Matt Poitras, who does not look like he wants to come back here to Guelph anytime soon. He was playing in back-to-back situations. He played 18 minutes and 27 seconds, won 58.8% of his faceoffs, and he scored a goal to tie things up. Continues to make a strong push for the opening night roster on October 11th, 1 week from tonight, against the Chicago Blackhawks. Head coach Jim Montgomery, acknowledged he played almost 17 minutes on Monday in Philadelphia. He was over 18 minutes last night, back-to-back with what is not uncommon travel. You won't really see in the regular season, day of travel, unless it's a back-to-back home and away. You don't really see that too much, so it was a bit of a special spot for Poitras. They wanted to see what he'd be able to do in that circumstance, and overall, he competed. He lost some battles, but he came back and won some as well. He didn't get down on himself or lose confidence. It was a good goal that he scored to tie it up. Continues to show a lot of poise with the puck. Poitras said he felt pretty good. Through the third was one of his best periods. So, getting stronger as things go on. Kind of caught a second wind. He felt maybe a little tired in the first two periods, but then he felt better and got his legs underneath him. Definitely the pace is fast, but playing back-to-back, getting home late, no excuses. He felt good to be out there. For the second game in a row, for the second consecutive home preseason game, Poitras skated alongside Brad Marchand, serving not only as a line mate, but also as a bit of a mentor and a role model here in training camp. Now, Poitras said it was cool watching him growing up. Keep in mind, Poitras, an Ontario boy, grew up, let's say it, as a fan of the Maple Leafs. But he's been watching Marchand since he was a little kid, being able to play with a guy like that, who's that caliber of player, holds on to pucks in the O-zone, protects the puck. Being a smaller guy, it's pretty cool to see that. Now, he was kind of coy about whether or not he was a fan of Marchand growing up. He said he never really hated any player, with a bit of a smirk. Obviously, he's a bit of a pest out there, growing up in the Toronto area, being somewhat of a Leafs fan. Yeah, you could say that he wasn't a huge fan personally of Marchand growing up, but coming into the locker room, seeing him being named captain, you got to respect the hustle and how he has evolved over the course of his career. Now, speaking of young hopefuls, another guy who made another positive impression was defenseman Mason Lohrei. Lohrei played a team-high 24 minutes and 40 seconds of ice time, paired up with Charlie McAvoy, and he also scored. Gave the Bruins a 2-1 lead off a feed from Milan Lucic. He said it was definitely special being in the building and wearing that jersey. Seeing Lucic, McAvoy making a great play to get him the puck. He said McAvoy is one of those guys that makes everybody else on the ice so much better because he's a world-class talent. Super lucky to get to play with him and learn from him. Montgomery added that Lohrei was really on his toes throughout the night, highly complimentary of his first period goal. One of the best efforts in terms of jumping into the offense, which is a hallmark of Montgomery's system, wanting to get his defensemen involved offensively, supporting plays. Montgomery said he really loved Lohrei's goal because that's the way they want to play. Once we get the puck, want to transition 5 guys and just get going. So there's some tough roster decisions coming up in terms of, is Poitras going to be in the lineup? Mason Lohrei done enough? They have some tough decisions ahead of them. The Bruins off today in terms of on-ice practice, but you can bet that Jim Montgomery, his staff, Don Sweeney, his staff, having major discussions today as to guys to put on waivers for the purpose of assignment down to Providence. Everybody has made it through training camp relatively healthy. A lot of guys fighting for jobs. Overall, the team's game is not near where they need it to be. They've been, mix and matching lines, trying to find the right pairings, line combinations. The intensity level hasn't been where it needs to be for guys that know they're on the team. It has been for some of the roster hopefuls. But in my estimation, both Poitras and Lohrei have done enough to be on the opening night roster. Where does that leave some of the other guys? We'll discuss that later on in today's podcast as I project the opening night lineup. At this point in the training camp trajectory, 1 preseason game remaining, and it's going to be a pretty opening night lineup heavy look. So we may get some more indication today based on whether or not they choose to put some guys on waivers for the purpose of assignment. Speaking of that, yesterday before the game, Fabian Lysell, Mike Callahan were assigned to Providence Bruins training camp, and the right move for Lysell at this point. Alec Regula, Dan Renouf, Anthony Richard, Riley Walsh, Parker Witherspoon placed on waivers for the purpose of assignment to Providence. Again, as I talked about yesterday, not a knock on Lysell that he's not NHL ready at this point. Still only 20 years old. Yes, Poitras, 19, has excelled, but they're 2 totally different players, and I expect Lysell to make some strides at the AHL level and possibly be called up here at some point during the regular season. All right, coming up after the break, we are going to give our 3 stars continuation, 2 stars left to award from last night, and we'll do that coming up here after the break. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. You can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match Assessments and virtual interviews. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates the moment they sponsor a job. All you have to do is visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing Not available for everyone. With Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your daily routine. Please do smash that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app and YouTube if you have not already. And coming up on tomorrow's podcast, I'm going to do my complete roster projections for opening night. We'll have a clearer idea of what that might look like. But what is for sure, I think, is a new look fourth line that will feature Milan Lucic, Jakub Lauko, and Johnny Beecher. I think all three have done enough to warrant consideration for this new look fourth line. Now, Lucic, of course, scored last night. He also had an assist and just looked so good in black and gold. He is born to be a Boston Bruin, and after 8 years away, he is back. He said last night they just kept playing him, so he was like, okay, this must be a good thing. Keep going out there and show what I can do. He scored that goal. It went off Sonny Milano, but still get the puck on net. Good things will happen. And he said, it's preseason, unofficial, but obviously good to get that one. Nice to be back on the bench, in the room, walking out with the dark colors. And as long as it's been, it actually doesn't feel that long. And it's great to be back. He was kind of nervous, had a little anxiety on his first shift to be able to make a play on a goal right off the bat from Mason Lohrei. Took all the butterflies away. And the 35-year-old skated alongside Beecher and Lauko to form what is one of the top combos for a potential Bruins fourth line. They were outstanding as a three-man unit. In fact, Lucic led the team in all situations in shot attempt differential while he was on the ice. 20 shot attempts for, 8 against, 71.43% shot attempt differential. Only 4 Bruins were positive in that regard. Van Riemsdyk, Zaka both at 60%, Pastrnak at 57.14. So just a great night overall for our boy Milan Lucic. Beecher thought they played pretty solid game as a line, able to force some turnovers. Lauko brings a lot of speed as well as Beecher, and Lauko also, with Lucic, brings some heaviness to that line. They're a hard line to play against, trying to get pucks deep, using their speed, being reliable in the D zone. It all went pretty well. Montgomery called them a real effective line, and they have an evident combination of speed and will, despite starting most shifts in the defensive zone. Beecher, strong in the faceoff dot once again. He had an assist on Lucic's goal, 4 hits, 53.8% success rate in the faceoff circle, 16 minutes of ice time. Won a lot of battles that created offense, according to Montgomery. A lot of good offense from defense, which is something that was very encouraging to see. Played a really good hockey game. Beecher's been pleased with his performance. At the end of the day, 3 or 4 games at the start of the year. So you can't expect mid-season form, but he's happy with his production. Done a lot of things that he wanted to do coming in. And of course, again, tough decisions for Bruins coaching and management coming up here in the next couple of days. But hopefully that line, he said, can stick around. Now there's options on the fourth line. There's Patrick Brown still kicking around. There's Danton Heinen looking for a new deal from the Bruins. Jesper Boqvist is in the mix as well. And things change if you keep Poitras in the mix. Do you put Poitras with Zacha and Pasternak and move Van Riemsdyk down to the third line? Or do you put Poitras with Marchand DeBrusque, move Coyle down to the third line with Geeky Frederick? Where does that leave Heinen, Boqvist? If this fourth line is penciled in, do they carry 14 forwards? Rotate Boqvist and Heinen in for Lucic, Lauko if they want to get different looks. Do you want to have Lauko and Lucic out there every night with Lucic's speed deficiencies, Lauko's propensity to take some ill-timed penalties? I can see them going with those 14 forwards with Greer, Brown being waived. I don't think I've seen enough from those two to warrant keeping them around at this point over some of these other guys. I like Boqvist a lot. I think Heinen is in the mix for sure. Those would probably be my 14 forwards. And again, don't forget, with Poitras, 9 games he can play before the first season of his ELC kicks in. So if they do keep him around, they lose a year of his contract, and he'll be an RFA at age 22 instead of 23. And that's a big consideration. All right, let's talk about Derek Forbort coming up here after the break. Snap into NFL action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Their app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Again, place a $5 bet, and win or lose, you'll get $200 in bonus bets to use on that wide range of options. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Place a $5 minimum bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. You just can't beat that promotion right now. So as we talk about the 3 stars of Bruins games this season, it's not always necessarily the brightest players on the ice, but the talking points that jump out. So we've talked about young roster hopefuls and Matt Poitras and Mason Lohrei. Should give a shout out to Matthew Phillips, our short king for the Washington Capitals. He's like literally my size. Of course, he has, let's say, better BMI, probably less gut and more muscle. I'll admit that. But my height, around my weight, out there, scoring the overtime winner. This guy's 25 years old, regularly potting 30 goals at the AHL level, a 6th round pick. Just hasn't been able to crack because of his size. But here he is, scoring overtime goal, playing big minutes for the Capitals, and looks like he's got a roster spot locked up for them. Now, on the other side of things, we got to talk about Derek Forbort. The guy's making $3 million, and he's a bit of an anchor out there for the Boston Bruins. I would much rather see Mason Lohrei in the lineup than Derek Forbort. There's just no question about it. A top 6 of Lohrei, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Grzelcyk, Shattenkirk. Forbort Shattenkirk just has not looked very good so far. And Grzelcyk, Lohrei, you can basically shift them around. You could put Lohrei with Shattenkirk, who's a more experienced guy. But $3 million, gotta try to bury that in Providence. I just don't see Derek Forbort kicking around for 82 games. Yes, he's a big body. He's effective on the penalty kill. Lohrei's out there killing penalties as well. He is effective with the puck. He is just more fun to watch. And like I said last night on X, Twitter, whatever, Forbort over Lohrei would be a crime against hockey, a crime against fun. And I just want to see him up on the NHL team. He's done enough in training camp to warrant that. You carry 7 defensemen. It's got to be McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Grzelcyk, Lohrei, Shattenkirk, Mitchell. Those are the 7 guys. That requires trying to bury Forbort in the AHL. Requires placing Jakub Lauko on waivers for the purpose of assignment. Likely that he'll clear. Just there's some value there. Another team could see value in claiming the 2015 first rounder. He's an unrestricted free agent at season's end. He's a smooth skater, can make some nice passes, but he's an extra defenseman at best at the moment, and I don't see him being up with the big team. Forbort, I don't see it either. The Bruins seem married to him, don't want to send him down for whatever reason. Dead cap space. There's clearly no takers on the trade market. I just don't know what they're doing here by keeping him around. If you want to put the best possible product on the ice, it's Lohrei over Forbort. And right now, that's Poitras at center as well. He's done more than Morgan Geekie, who came over because he wanted a bigger role. It hasn't quite popped in the preseason. You put Coyle with Frederick and Geekie, that could be a pretty good third line. Poitras with Marchand, DeBrusk, that could be very, very nice. Poitras, one knock against him is that he doesn't shoot the puck as much. I think he's got maybe 100% shooting percentage in the preseason. Put him with a couple finishers in Marchand and DeBrusk. That could be a nice little line that you want to let cook for at least that 9 games before sending Poitras down. Again, like I've been saying on X, he's still only 19. He needs to add some size, and who knows how he'll withstand the rigors of actual NHL competition. You can say these guys are playing against, NHL level talent, but it's still preseason. The intensity is not the same. Doesn't mean anything. The matchups are different. He's going to be matched up against other teams' top 6 centers, and that's no small task at the NHL level, no matter who you're playing. So, unless it's maybe the San Jose Sharks, because they're going to be pretty bad. So those are the 3 stars of the night from last night. Lohrei, Poitras continue to prove they belong in the opening night roster. That new look 4th line is going to be very fun and exciting. Derek Forbort fans happy because the Bruins seem set on deploying him no matter what. And they did that back against Florida, and it was to their detriment. Grzelcyk was scratched for Forbort. That shouldn't have happened. They probably won that series if they don't keep Forbort in for all 7 games. So why come back to him again and relying on him for all 82 when you have better options? That's my argument of the day. Let me know what you think. Tomorrow's podcast will assess any moves the Bruins make today in terms of waivers, and I'll give you my full projections for the team, both up front and on defense. We all know the goaltending is already pretty much set. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you're all having a great week. Please do take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.